Hi, everyone. So, you may remember my last attempt to make a really big map, and it took all of spring break unexpectedly. This is my newest attempt, and it took most of this summer. So, this is the big map, so spoiler alert, I was able to do it. And it took 3 months of kind of on and off work on it. And so the idea was, this kind of idea started to form in my head about making a neighborhood scale map that has 3D houses that light up in the answer to questions from the US Census about who lived here. So where did this idea come from? The first kind of inklings of this idea came walking my kid to school. So my kid goes to school in this neighborhood. We're right at the edge. But this is a very classic neighborhood elementary school. I went in and I talked to the principal and a local historian about this idea. And one of the things that they had already been thinking about and were talking to me about is how the third graders study local history. And they do a tour of our city of Kent, Ohio, and the students do not have a stop in their own neighborhood. So our little elementary school, no stops in their own neighborhood, even though it's very historic. And so we started to talk about, like, how can we bring the history of these kids, where these kids actually live, and show them that their neighborhood is important too. And then also, I have a friend who got a grant to digitize all of Ohio's Sanborn maps, and she's looking for ways to use it, and I'm like, oh, this could work. So that was a little bit of a connection. I also have worked, as you may remember, with our university's makerspace, and so having people who know more about what they're doing as a backup is really helpful. And so that was inspiring to, like, okay, even if I am confused about how to do this, they can help me. Then also this idea of lighting things up came from my mom taught a bird class, like an after-school bird class, and my grandfather was an electrical engineer, and they collaborated to create this bird matching game where you just, like, it's very simple. And so that was also in my head, and then finally also in my head were these railroad guys who asked me to make maps for their book on the history of the railroad in our small town. And so all of those things came together to create this idea of making a map of Kent's South End. So this is just a map showing the general location of it. This is the key for the Sanborn maps, and the southern part obviously is the South End, and so that's where it was. It's been around for more than 100 years, and there's lots of little historic houses and businesses within this neighborhood. This neighborhood is generally where the railroad workers lived, and the railroad workers tended to be Eastern European immigrants and black folks who migrated from the South during the Great Migration. So behind this map, the thinking is tied really strongly to community geography, which is, among other things, about mapping with the community and not just mapping them or making a map and then giving it to them. And so I wanted to do this project working with the community. I also wanted to create a product that would be something that the regular folks that lived in this neighborhood, and especially the kids, could interact with. And so rather than just publishing it as a journal article, I also had this dream in mind that the kids could actually make this map. Now, this did not come to pass, but I actually am working on writing up a how-to so that other teachers maybe could do this on a slightly smaller scale. And so another idea that was informing this is thinking about, so these kids, I did not know this until I had a kid, and who's now in 4th grade. And they spend a lot of their times on Chromebooks, and so, like, I could make a map of their neighborhood in GIS and all have their Chromebooks in front of them, but I felt like it was really important to kind of maybe backtrack a little and be a little more analog to try to get the kids engaged in this. So all of these ideas and a few more were involved in thinking about creating this map. So what I'm going to talk through is, one, what's the research that had to go into creating this project? Two, having mapping workshops, which were really important for the community geography aspect of the project, involving folks in actually creating the map. the practicality of printing the map and wiring the map, and then finally putting it on display somewhere public. So one of the things that I had to do research in was using census data to identify the information that would actually be in the map. And what's great is 1950 and before, the decadal census is available by household level. It's kind of complicated how you get that. And so you can get it from two places. You can get it from Ancestry.com, you can get it from IPUMS, and yes, you can get it from the census, but if you've ever seen how they OCR things, it's like not good. So I wouldn't advise that. But anyway, I was able to gather the data, and it's so amazing to look at this information and see house by house what country people came from, or where their parents were born, or what language they speak, what job they held, which are all super interesting looking back into the early 20th century. So you have to research that. And so originally I was just going to make the houses Monopoly-style houses, like they would all be the same. And then I was like, why not make this more elaborate and make all the houses look like the actual houses look? Wow, great idea, right? And most of them are actually all the same. They're all still there, most of them, not all of them. If they weren't still there, I did use a Monopoly house because I didn't know what they looked like. But most of them were still there. So I went around, and I did do this on Street View, so that made it a little easier, and kind of wrote down. I ended up with 25 different house styles in the neighborhood and 350 houses to 3D print. Another part of the research was to take that census data and make it into yes/no questions, since this is like the simplest GIS ever. I don't even know if it counts as GIS. And so I decided, there's so much data, it was hard to choose, but I went with, are they an immigrant? Are they a railroad worker? Did they have a radio, which is an interesting question from the 1930 census. And then by 1950, there was a lot of black Southern migrants living there, so yes or no, did they fall into that category? So this was happening concurrently with hosting these mapping workshops. So the idea, I was like, oh, I'm going to buy a 3D printer, like a little one, and then bring it with me, and then people will be really excited about 3D printing. They'll want to print their houses. No, they didn't care about that. It turned out they really just wanted to either tell us stories about their house that they knew, or look up who lived in their house in the census. I printed out all the census records, digitized, and they loved learning more about who lived in their house. So that was an interesting thing to find. So I had 3 of these mapping workshops, including one right in the neighborhood, and then one at the 150th celebration of the railroad depot, and then one at the public library. So again, concurrently, I was also working on making this base map. One of the folks at the Makerspace suggested that I should use corkboard, and then in Googling that, I found that there's actually foam core that's covered with cork, which turns out looks beautiful when you etch it on the laser cutter. So I went to the Makerspace and was able to etch 6 of these boards that then would go together to make this big map. So the 3D printing of the houses was interesting. I had to teach myself Blender. I did not understand. I taught myself Blender as much as I needed to know, and it looks nothing like what Carl's doing. This was like the simplest version of understanding Blender possible. And then I started to make different houses, like do really basic little houses. I brought some with me if you want to come see them, or if you want one. They cost like 2 cents each to print. And this is the picture there is showing somebody brought a drawing of their house to one of the mapping workshops, and we put it next to the little 3D house, and it looked really similar, which was cool. So then there was the lighting part, which again, I was starting from knowing nothing. And really this, again, super basic circuitry, but I was able to connect the different lights together. I mirror printed the base map to put it on the back, and then drilled holes through each of the different places where there'd be lights poking through, and then there'd be up to, between 0 to 4 lights coming through, and then each of the strings of lights is connected to a button for the question. And so that was complicated, but But not as bad as I thought it would be, to be honest. It looks bad. So it looks hazardous. It runs on a 9-volt battery, so I'm told there's no fire hazard, fortunately. I put a frame on this to connect the 6 pieces, but I used furring strips, which I don't recommend because I think they made it too heavy. It wasn't that heavy, but still too heavy. So that was, construction happened. Then I also had to permanently attach when I wanted them to be temporarily attached together. And now it only fits in a truck to be transported, which we do not own. So that's not great. So this is where it is now. It's in the public library. My friend sent me this selfie, getting all excited because she got to go see the map. I met the 3rd grade class there on their annual field trip and got to talk to them about the map and let them play with the map and let them look at the census records, and that was pretty awesome kind of final product of the map. But one of the things I thought, I was like, oh, I'll have to, like, are they going to let me put this up in the library? Turns out they have a whole program to bring in public art, and the maps are art. So it was actually, that part was much easier than I thought it would be. So just in case you're curious, so again, the idea here was like, can this be something that's replicated in small towns or neighborhoods? It doesn't have to be a small town, cities, wherever. Can it be replicated by teachers? One of my goals was to keep my costs as low as possible. Really the biggest cost was paying the makerspace to use their laser cutter, which was interesting. The rest of it is pretty cheap. Like you probably would still, if you're a teacher, you might still need a grant for it, but less than $400 to make it. So what's next for this? The Historical Society is doing an exhibit on African American history in Kent, and so they have a space for me to put the map, and I'm hoping it will stay there because I don't know what happens then. It's going to be a regular part of the 3rd grade field trip, and yeah, I've found a social studies conference that I'm going to present this at and hopefully encourage other teachers to be able to do this. So that's it. If anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Jen. That was really cool. You had a note in there about what to do with like no data pieces, and did you ever explore like a 2-color, like where you could light the yeses and the nos on the houses and then leave unlit the no data pieces, or was no data a small enough piece of it that you could treat them as nos?
Yeah,
and is there like a perception difference? You know, like is it too much light if it's a yes and no light, and then only a couple houses that have no data?
So I talked briefly with the makerspace person about that problem, and there was a whole thing. We were like, well, what if I can't remember exactly what we were. It turned out it was too complicated for the wiring skills that I personally had to do. So yeah, the no data thing, there was a lot of stuff on the slides that I didn't have time to talk about, but yeah, the no data thing, it irked me as a social scientist that I could not show no data, because there is actually a number of houses that have no data.
Okay, we can do one more quick one. Oh, wait, over there. Okay, cool.
That was really cool. How long did it take you to do that?
So I started in mid-May, and it ended, and I put it up in the library in mid-August, so not working on it full time. So it wasn't that bad. It was more than I thought, more than I expected, as usual, but not bad.
Okay, that's it on time for Jen, but you can find her during the breaks if you have more questions.